Guys, it is April the 18th, 2025, and I hope everybody's been having a wonderful day so far. Happy TGIF to everybody whose weekend's about to begin, and I hope that you have a sober weekend. This morning, I was watching this, it was about a 45-minute long documentary, and it popped up on my YouTube feed, and it was a documentary about AUD, and pretty sure it was in England that they had filmed this, and I think it was like a brand new documentary, and I was just watching that this morning, and while I was watching that documentary, one of the ladies that was on there, was a bunch of different people who had AUD, and they were just telling their story, and how they ended up the way that they did. They basically started from their childhood and started working their way up in the teenage years when they started drinking or whatever, and then how things were for them while they were in active addiction and all that kind of stuff. And one of the ladies that was on there started talking about how she would go to different stores often so that the clerks at the store didn't know how much she was actually drinking. And as soon as I heard that, I stopped, and I got my notepad out and wrote that down, and I said, I want to talk about that today, because it's something that I used to do all the time when I was in active addiction. And I think one of the reasons I want to talk about this today is that, often when we've got some time under our belt, we've got a little bit of sobriety, we will start to romanticize the alcohol or the substance or whatever it is, the activity may be. And we'll start thinking about it. We'll start thinking about the fun times that we had. We always remember those good times, and we often forget the bad. And, like I said, driving around to these different stores so that the clerks don't know how much you're actually drinking. And I don't know how many of you out there actually did this, but I know that I did. And I've spoken to many people who did the same thing. There was probably, 6 or 7 liquor stores that I used to frequent because I didn't want them to know how much I actually drank. And I knew the clerks pretty well. I drank for years. And I used to go to these same liquor stores over and over again. And the thing is, I live in a really small town, and a lot of the liquor stores, the owners are the ones that work behind the counter. It's just the way it is. I guess they're trying to, either they can't find the help or they don't want to spend the money. So a lot of times it's the owners that are in the store. So they remember their customers. And, I'd walk into the liquor store, and as soon as I pulled up in front of the liquor store at a lot of the places, because they're really small places, the only thing, in liquor stores in South Carolina, the only thing that they can sell in the liquor store is liquor. If they even want to sell beer and wine, they have to have a whole separate store. So you'll see sometimes these liquor stores here in South Carolina, it'll be one building, but it'll be split in two. So like the right-hand side will be the liquor side, and then the left-hand side, which you have to walk into a whole separate door. There has to be a wall in between those two. So you go into the other side, and they'll have, big coolers with beer, and then they'll have wine and all that kind of stuff in there as well. But they can't sell the liquor and everything else in the same store. They split it up. But back to what I was saying, I'd pull up in front of these stores, and before I even got out of the car, the owner would see me pull up, and they were already at the shelf grabbing my liquor and taking it up to the counter. So I'd pull up, walk into this liquor store, and my liquor is already sitting there waiting on me. And they would say, anything else? And a lot of times they'd ask me, how many of these do you want? Because I used to always buy those, I think they were 3 ounces or 2.75 ounces or whatever, but it was the double shot of Fireball. And the only reason I used to drink those is because I didn't want to have to crack open my half gallon of liquor while I was driving down the road. So I would buy those shooters of Fireball, and that, I'd already been drinking beer probably before I even went to the liquor store to grab my liquor. And it just depended when I went to go get it. It's not like I had a set time that I got my liquor every day. But as soon as I would leave the liquor store, I would crack one of those fireballs. I mean, that was the first thing I did when I got back in my vehicle, was crack a fireball and slam it. And then on my way home, I would drink 2 more. So I would drink 3 double shooters on my ride home from going to the liquor store. And then I would usually buy a couple extra just for whatever, for like the next day, while I was at work. I just always had little shooters with me everywhere I went. They were all over the place. I just always bought shooters when I went to the liquor store, and that way I would have them stashed all over the place. I'd have a couple in this vehicle, and then a couple in my closet, and a couple in my backpack, and I had some in my office at work, and they were everywhere. They would be stashed in my freezer at work. I would go in there and, in between frozen quail, I would shove a couple of fireball shooters in there because I want them cold anyway. And then I would walk into the walk-in freezer and pretend like I was in there doing something, and I would take one of those shooters and stand in the freezer with my back turned to the door and slam it. That way, if somebody opened up that door, they wouldn't see what I was doing, and I could put the bottle maybe back in my pocket or in my pants or in my chef jacket pocket or something like that. But that's what I used to do. And, like I said, there were a whole bunch of different liquor stores that I used to frequent. And sometimes I would drive way out of my way. If I had been on a really bad bender and was drinking, at least a half gallon a day or more, and I was doing frequent trips, like maybe stopping by a liquor store twice in one day, there was no way I was going back to the same liquor store after that. There was no way. So I'd have to go to another liquor store. That way they didn't see that I was back again. I'd already polished off a whole half gallon of vodka, or whatever it was. And sometimes I didn't buy a half gallon. Sometimes I'd walk in there and buy, a pint, because I promised myself that's all I'm going to drink for that day. Or I bought 2 pints. I remember at one point in my drinking, I told my wife that I was only going to drink 2 pints of liquor a day, so all I buy was 2 pints. But that ended up, I would just go buy those 2 pints, and before you know it, I was right back at the store. And then I was like, the heck with this, I'm just going to go buy another half gallon. And then I would keep those half pint bottles around, and I would fill those back up. And then I played this whole game like that's all I was drinking. And then I would have beer in the house, but I just kept refilling those pints. It just became a ridiculous game of hide and go seek, and that's all it was, a game of deception. But back to the liquor store thing, I would, like I said, I would drive all over town. Monday I went to this liquor store, and Tuesday I went to this liquor store, Wednesday I go to another liquor store, and I always had to make sure that my rotation, too, was, on my day or days off, that I hadn't been to the liquor store that was closest to my house right before my days off. That way, when I needed to go to the liquor store on my day or days off, I could go to the closest one. It's ridiculous to think about all the things and pre-planning and the amount of thought that goes into the deception with alcohol or any kind of usage. The thought process that goes into this and the amount of thinking that we do, trying to plan things out. You're already trying to think about, okay, well, I've got this meeting that I go to in 2 weeks. How am I going to sneak liquor into there? Or, you've got to go to some pool party or something, and you're thinking about, okay, the day before, you're like already thinking about, okay, I guess I could pour some liquor into my Sprite bottle, and then I could put a little Sprite in there, and I can walk around the party drinking that Sprite, and nobody's going to know because it's maybe let's say a party that there's not going to be any alcohol at. So you're already thinking ahead of how you're going to trick the system and be able to sneak your medicine into whatever event that it is. Like I said, the deception that goes into it, it's insane. And, just thinking about just driving around to different liquor stores so that people don't know how much you're actually drinking. And I'm sure there's a lot of you out there who did this as well. It's just crazy to think about that we would do those types of things. And why would you want to go back to that again? Do you want to go back to that life of driving around to different liquor stores so they don't know how much you're actually purchasing? Do you want to go back to that again? Do you want to go back to the hiding of the alcohol all over again? You're searching for a hiding spot for the alcohol. You're trying to figure out how to sneak stuff into places, or before you leave for work in the morning, you were like what I was doing, and you're filling up water bottles with vodka. That way you, for 100% sure, can get your liquor into your job or wherever. Because I used to carry a water bottle with me everywhere I went that had vodka in it. And I mean everywhere I went. There wasn't a place when I left my house, I had a water bottle with vodka in it. If I went into a Walmart, I had a bottle of vodka in my backpack on my shoulder that I carried around with me. That way, if we were in there too long and I needed to take a drink, that I could go excuse myself and go to the bathroom and go in there and take a shot or two out of my water bottle. And that's the craziness of this. Do you want to go back to that? Did you do things like that too? One of the people on that documentary that I was watching this morning was talking about how he did just that as well. He said he had his in a Sprite bottle. And he would take his Sprite bottle everywhere he went. He would take it with him to college while he sat there listening to the professor in his classroom. Just drinking his vodka out of a Sprite bottle. I used to, every single morning when I would wake up, the first thing I would do is go throw up. And then the next thing I would do is go make myself a drink. And then after I made myself a drink and I got the shakes to go away, the next thing that I had to do that morning is I would go take those little miniature shooter bottles and I'd go wash them out really good with water because they had cinnamon whiskey in them, and I did not want my vodka to taste like cinnamon. So I'd go wash them out really well, and I'd fill those little shooter bottles up with vodka, the ones that I had from the night before. I'd fill all those up, and then I'd fill up a water bottle with vodka. So I had to take this funnel and fill up all these little bottles, and then after I got done, I had to wash the vodka off the bottles, and I had to dry them off because they reeked of booze. And then I would throw those into my backpack that I carried with me everywhere I went. And then I would get my shower, get dressed for work, and then I would drive to work, and then go throughout my day. And then I would, strategically throughout the day, I've got to go to the bathroom, and I'd put one of those little shooter bottles in my pocket before I left. And I'm sitting there in the bathroom drinking my shooter, pretending that I'm going to the bathroom. I'm just sitting on the toilet drinking liquor, and hot liquor at that. It's not like it was cold or I had ice or some mixer to mix in there. I was just sitting there drinking just straight vodka that had been sitting in my pocket for who knows how long. And that's the craziness of this. And that's why I wanted to talk about this today. Because it's about to be the weekend, and it's about to start. And like I said yesterday, it's starting to warm up outside. It's starting to get really nice. The trees are all starting to get leaves on them. The flowers are all blooming. The weather's starting to warm up. The sun's out. It's looking beautiful. People are starting to go to the beach and the lake and all that kind of stuff. And this is the time when people really start to party and have, they start to have parties and stuff. And these are the times, too, that you start to see all the commercials on TV. People at the beach having a blast, drinking their Coronas or whatever it is they're drinking. They're having so much fun. They don't ever show you the next day. They don't ever show you 20 years from then, that person laying in a hospital bed. They don't show you any of that. They don't show you the gory details of this and the truth behind it, because that's really what it is. So guys, like I said, the weekend's about to start. Let's stay sober this weekend. Let's worry about today, but let's stay sober this weekend too. And like I said, if you start to get those thoughts, if you start to romanticize the booze or the substance or whatever it is again, think about why you got sober, and think about all those times back in the day and all the crazy stuff that used to happen. Think about all the drama that used to happen when you were in active addiction. All the people that were upset with you, how upset with yourself that you were, how disappointed in yourself that you were. And you've come this far. You've gotten sober. Don't go back to that life again. Don't go back. It's not what you think it's going to be. I can promise you that. There's one thing I know for a fact. It is not what you think it's going to be. I've spoken to so many people that have relapsed, and every single one of them has said the same thing. I've asked them all the same question. Was it what you thought it was going to be? And every single one of them told me, no, it's not. I wish I hadn't have done it. Because every single one of those people, too, when they relapse, they go right off the deep end. It's not just one day. We're talking about days, weeks, months, years go by. If you've gotten sober, you went through all that hell to get to where you are right now, stay there. And don't look back. It truly isn't what you think it's going to be. It's just your brain playing tricks on you right now. That's it. That's truly all it is. Let's stay sober this weekend, guys, but particularly let's stay sober today. And if those thoughts are in your brain today, just push them out. Think about all the things you have to be grateful for right now. And don't think about that again. You know, it's just really, it is not worth going back to that life all over again. That is a dark, miserable, depressing, sad life. It really, truly is. I remember it like it was just yesterday. I remember those feelings I used to have and how badly I wanted to get out of that. Every day I would just sit there and cry. In my shower, we had like one of those little shower seats, and I would sit in my shower every morning and just bawl and say, what is wrong with me? Why can't I stop doing this? And you guys know what I'm talking about. Think about those times. Think about those times when you felt so bad and all you wanted to do was just stop it. And look where you are now. And why go back to that? So guys, like I said, let's stay sober today. And let's stay sober this weekend. I think that's it for today, guys. I think that's it. Like I said, that's just been on my mind all morning since I watched that documentary. And I just wanted to talk about that today. About how I used to drive around to all these different liquor stores because I didn't want them to know how much I was really, truly drinking. And I would drive way out of my way, too. I'm talking about drive to a whole nother town because we only have so many liquor stores where I live. And once I had gone to all those, I was not going to go back into them. And you know, the worst part about it is, and I'm about to get off of here, a lot of times, too, if I would pull up to the liquor store and I knew what the liquor store owner, what their car was, and I knew what their employee's car was. So if I pulled up, and I could think of one particular liquor store that's really close to me. I knew exactly what cars they drove. And if I pulled up and I saw the owner was there and I had just been there the other day, then I would drive off and go to the next liquor store. But if I pulled up and I saw that their employee was there, well, then they hadn't seen me yet that week because his employee only worked like 2 days a week, and I didn't see her that often. So if I had saw him just the day before and I drove up there and her car was there, I would go ahead and walk in. And the worst part about this, too, is that I knew their schedules. I would ask. When I walked in, you know, what days do you work? Oh, I work on Mondays and Tuesdays or whatever. I'm like, okay. And that way I knew I could go hit that liquor store on Saturday and I could come back through again on Monday or Tuesday on my day off. It's crazy. It is absolutely insane to think about. So, guys, let's stay sober today. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really do appreciate it. And until tomorrow, I will see y'all then. I hope y'all have a great rest of your day. I love you guys so much. Bye-bye.